Ted Cruz was on Chris Matthews' program, Hardball, and they had a cordial interview until they got to one issue. And Chris Matthews wanted to hold his feet to the fire on the issue of consistency when it comes to Ted Cruz's criticism of the Supreme Court. And very well played here. Let's watch.
2000 election, you had a big role in the recount. We covered it. It was the best thing I ever covered. I never liked covering anything like the recount. But you bring the Supreme Court in, which you were happy to, as a lover of the Supreme Court then. You brought them in. They basically said the state lost its rights to recount and keep writing because of equal protection. Now, on the issue of marriage equality, you say no equal protection, leave the states alone. So how do you be consistent there? Are you consistent or inconsistent on equal protection?
Listen, I believe I'm very, very consistent. And one of the things I describe in the book is how I've spent my entire adult life fighting to defend the Constitution. It's been a passion,
and the court.
Literally since I was a teenager.
Court. You've always been pro-Supreme Court until now.
I revere the court. As you know, I was a law clerk to Chief Justice Rehnquist.
It's in the book.
Wait a minute. That's an excellent question. Now, and it's a question we've all been asked for a long time, but you know what? Matthews got Cruz on his program, got to ask it to his face. Now, you guys claim to be in favor of states' rights, and then in the 2000 election, Gore v. Bush, all of a sudden you were against states' rights and against all the things that you claim to be in favor of. And at that point, you really liked the Supreme Court. You like what they were doing. Now that they're ruling with Obama, goddamn Supreme Court, unelected justices, et cetera. In fact, Matthews is going to press further on that.
If unelected judges are going to seize every major policy issue of this country, you know, there was a time...
They seized the presidency in 2000. You did not complain. The Supreme Court said no to the state of Florida. You can't recount, even though it's a close election. You are not allowed to recount. We're giving this to our guy, 5-4 Republican vote in the Supreme Court. If there was ever a case of partisanship or ideology getting out of hand, it was 2000, and you loved it. You were cheering, you say in the book.
Those are great talking points.
But they're true. Okay. I just think it's a case of states' rights, which you usually champion, and equal protection, which is the first time in the history Republicans champion equal protection, and then have lost interest in it now that it's a question of marriage equality.
Hey, man, Matthews, 100% right. So there's just no argument against it. And in fact, there's so little argument against it, Ted Cruz had to admit, a great talking point. No, but it's not a talking point that is false in some way and hence misleading. It's a talking point that's true. That's why you had to say, yeah, ooh, got me on that one. What's your answer? You don't have an answer, right? Because you are wildly inconsistent. When the Supreme Court did something that was deeply political, the most political decision in United States history when it comes to the court, and say, we are declaring this election over, even though the state of Florida would like to recount their votes, we're not going to allow them. We're going to strip them of that state right, okay? And we're going to just hand the election over to George W. Bush. By the way, when they did finally recount, the news organizations, it turns out if you recounted the whole state, George W. Bush lost every recount. He not only lost the popular vote, he would have lost the electoral vote. The Supreme Court changed history and did something grotesquely political. And at that time, Ted Cruz was like, yes, I love the Supreme Court. States' rights, I don't care about states' rights. States' rights are crap and Supreme Court is awesome. Now the Supreme Court says, yeah, the Obamacare, they wrote the law. Their intent was the states or the federal government can set up a healthcare exchange. And they're all right here. It's not like I have to divine the intent of the founding fathers. I know what they said. They're right here. They came into court and said that's what we intended. Oh, how dare the Supreme Court! Unelected justice is so political. It is gross hypocrisy. And great job calling them out on it by Chris Matthews. Now, I've got to note for the record again, Ted Cruz's face. Somebody tell that guy to fix his face, man. I can't imagine that that's appealing to even Republicans. That face. And the whole time Chris Matthews is busting him up, he's sitting there like, that smug-ass look, man. Do Republicans look at that and go, oh, that guy looks so smug. I love that guy. Like, look at this. Oh, I love it. I love it. Give it to me again one more time. Hit me one more time. God.